it's time to sit back and relax with your favorite drink. And listen. The Grey City Tales. Sanitation. Ever wonder what goes on behind the scenes in your town, city or village? Well, if you're in a bustling metropolis, or a little Maybury-like speck of a place, nothing too interesting, but if you're in a city just big enough to have places to hide, but small enough to avoid too much scrutiny from the outside, well, that's another story. I call them grey cities. What is a grey city? Well, simply put, it's a place that sticks to very traditional methods of infrastructure. You see, the Industrial Revolution, for the most part, was a well-organized distraction for the real reason productivity suddenly skyrocketed. At one point, every city used the old ways, but as it became harder to hide the unpalatable aspects of these methods, they'd fallen into disuse. But some still reap the rewards of doing things the old-fashioned way. And that brings us to who I am. Well, you can think of me as a combination of historian, anthropologist, and zoologist. I've dedicated my life to cataloguing people's experiences with the entities in the grey cities, combing the internet, underground magazines, and any other source of information for other interactions. And today, I'm bringing you the story of Jason, a gentleman who got caught up in a really shitty situation. An encounter that will make any person flush, and on a personal note, would really piss me off. So, Greytown Tales, Sanitation. Jason, there's something in the toilet. My little brother Cole, who may be the most obnoxious 10-year-old on earth, screeches. I bet I can guess what it is. Look, just deal with it, I yell back, trying to get a couple of hours of work from home done. Remote computer repair, in case you're wondering. Well, my name's Jason. Let's avoid last names, as I'm currently in need of anonymity. I'm 22 and live at home with my mother and kid brother. Mum doesn't leave her room much, less so since the pandemic. Severe back injuries tend to have that effect on people. Jason, it's bad. His voice reaches levels of squeak I didn't think possible as I get up and make my way to the bathroom. And what I see is a shit-paloptic vision that stuns me so much, I take 5 seconds to notice the physical punch of a smell that slams into me 5 feet from the doorframe. The walls are splattered with a deep reddish-brown substance that's only poop in the best-case scenario. The toilet is overflowing with a steady stream of similarly colored fluid that I'll generously call water. My brother's dripping, looking at me like he just ran 10 miles through a muddy field. What in the hell did you do? I yell. Nothing, I swear. I was just going to use it and then this happened, he replies petulantly. That's not how it works, Bud. There's one solution here. Plunge the thing. I refuse to set foot in there, I say in my I pay half the mortgage tone. He starts to reply and thinks better of it. He grabs the plunger and suddenly stumbles back. Oh, there's a rat in there, he says, looking to me with a crap-covered, shocked expression that would be hilarious if I couldn't smell it. There isn't a rat, I say, monotone, pointing to the toilet. Now the kid begins to plunge, brown, flotsam-infested water flowing over the rim in septic waves. Well, if I didn't see it, I'd probably have rolled my eyes and told him to keep plunging. But I caught a glimpse of something, squat and brown, spring up, lightning quick, and take a small piece from Cowell's arm. Get out of there, I say, with a combination of concern and shock. I send him to the downstairs bathroom to shower. The wound isn't bad, but I'm sure being covered in raw sewage wouldn't do it any favors. I run into the kitchen, opening drawers and trying to find something appropriate for dispatching a toilet rodent. I settle on a pair of garden gloves, a kitchen knife, and a steel potato masher. I'm sure there are a dozen household item combinations that could have worked better, but in a rush, Angry Chef was about as good as my equipment was going to get. I step into the feces-coated bathroom and fight the urge to gag. I almost lose this fight as I step into a pile of something that has a texture that could only be described as uncomfortably oily. Keep my eye on the toilet. The top layer of scum and water is moving, but it's just as likely the overflowing water as whatever took a piece of my brother. I hesitantly kick the toilet, and there's a splash in the bowl. I catch another glimpse of whatever is in there and try and track it by its shadow, to no avail. I take in a steadying breath and drive the potato masher into the filthy water. I catch a full face of the reeking liquid, but I feel something. I try to trap it between the masher and the bowl, but whatever it is, it's quick and slippery. I drop the masher and try my luck with the knife, stabbing at random, hoping to get lucky and skewer the thing. I feel a violent tug on my glove, try to pull back, but somehow whatever this is holds me there. Well, I could slip out of the glove, but that would mean not only dropping the knife, but exposing my bare hand to this likely diseased thing. Pull back with all my strength, not asking myself how something the size of a king can manage a grip like this on a sheer surface. But I didn't need to, really. Well, I don't see the ass end of the thing, but I get a good look at its head, and I suddenly doubt it's anywhere close to the rodent family. It seemed to ooze a yellow pus. Its face, skeletal and rotted, did have a vaguely rodent shape to it. Long yellow fangs pierced the glove, and soulless black eyes twitched with dull malice. I saw tufts of matted brown hair run the length of its body, disappearing into the opaque water of the toilet. I didn't ask myself any of the questions you're asking yourself now. With this thing snarling and gnashing the glove to pieces, all I knew was that it was an animal in my house and seconds away from tearing my hand apart. As a reflex, I take my free hand and jab my thumb deep into one of its large, dull eyes. Grey fluid jets from the socket as the creature lets out a piercing screech, letting go of the glove. With a lightning-quick movement, it plunges back into the water. A rumbling, phlegmatic noise gurgles from the toilet as the water level goes from overflowing to nearly dry in a second. I fall to the floor, confused, covered in God knows what, and staring at a brutalized toilet with chunks of stringy grey hair hanging from it like the world's saddest anemone. I caught my breath and took a shower, while HughEhhoule worked on cleaning the biohazard that our bathroom had become. By the time I'd finished my fourth scrub down and rinse off, I'd stopped thinking about the stranger aspects of what had happened and focused on the immediate problem. The cracked, useless toilet and whatever infestation that had caused the literal shitstorm that blew through my John. What? 2 months? It's crazy. I did explain that our walls are covered in shit, right? I say, trying to remain calm. Well, I'd called every plumber in the city and gotten similar timeframes all around. Well, I'm not a rich man, but I'm well off enough to have offered 4-figure tips as a bonus, but still had no luck. I don't know what to tell you, pal. Busy time of the year. My advice is to call the city. Well, back up that bad is going to be a problem with the outside lines anyway. The voice on the other line says in a tone that conveys an ironic lack of giving a shit. I start to tell him that this makes no sense. In fact, I give him a filibuster of a rant before realizing the man had hung up after anyway. Beaten and humbled as I was after fighting a toilet pest to a draw, I navigated the minor hell of the city's phone maze until reaching the sanitation department. Instead of getting a person, I was treated to the following voice prompt. Thank you for reaching the City of Mills Lake Sanitation Department. Our business hours are 2 a.m. until 9 a.m., 7 days a week to best serve your sanitation-based needs. Well, I listened to it 3 times before I realized, yes, I did hear it correctly. I joined HughEhhoule in cleaning the bathroom, and by the end of it, we patted each other on the back for only having a half-dozen vomits between us. I spent the rest of the night trying to pretend the fans we set up were doing anything to combat the stench, and come 2 a.m. I had a cup of black coffee in my hand, another 3 inside me, and a mixture of rage and caffeine jitters to take into the call. 15 minutes of hold, and I started to believe the voicemail was just screwing with me. What government agency is only open in the middle of the night? But right as I was about to hang up, I heard a gruff male voice on the line. "Sanitation department," he said simply. I launched into a rendition of events that was probably a little heavy on vulgarity, but hit all the key points, expecting shock and apologies. I didn't get what I expected. "Yeah, sounds about right. Listen, the pandemic has got everything all screwed up down here. We know there are problems, and we're doing our best to fix them. It's gonna be 4 weeks tops." Oh, if you had any idea how old our equipment is, you wouldn't be bitching about that time frame either. I took your name and number. When everything's done here, we'll send some guys to fix the damages. No real point in fixing it now. Probably gonna happen a couple more times. What you want to do in the meantime is go down to a pharmacy and pick yourself up some menthol crystals. Mix those up half and half with some salt, cover your shitter with it, and put some on the floor in front of the bathroom door. Pretty much the best thing you can do till we get this taken care of," the man says with his nearly robotic disinterest. Have you ever had a rage come over you so suddenly it feels like a hot wind? That kind of anger that creates a thin layer of rage sweat. Well, my coffee enjoyed a brief but eventful trip across the room as I ran through every combination of offensive language I could muster. Waiting all day for some jaded city worker to basically tell me to go fuck myself was not the resolution I wanted in this situation. After a few moments of silence, the man on the other end of the line replied, "If you think I'm yanking your chain, feel free to come down any time during business hours. Talk to my boss, get me fired, take a tour for all I care. I told you we're working with the old equipment. Old equipment gets sick." The line goes dead before I could make my brutal retort of, "Well, I will." The next day consisted of trying to remove the deep red stains left by the sewage to no avail, and explaining to my mother that she'd have to use the downstairs bathroom for the foreseeable future. I spent the rest of the time, as most people do when they feel slighted by customer service, running over in my mind exactly how I was going to best this joyless government drone. Well, anger's a funny thing. Looking back at all of this with a clearer head, I can't understand how I didn't pick up on all the little clues something very wrong was happening. But at the time, all I could think about was the fact my house still smelled like a diaper bin, and that my disabled mother was going to have to deal with 2 flights of stairs every time she needed to use the toilet. What I'm saying is, I'm pretty sure I've never been so awake at 2 a.m. The drive to get downtown was quiet. Not even a homeless person or a cop camped out on an intersection to break the feeling of isolation. A light rain washed over the cracked windshield of my third-hand hatchback as I pulled up to the squat municipal building. I looked for any large-scale equipment to confirm I'm at the right address, but other than a parking lot with a handful of city vehicles, I see nothing. Harsh fluorescent light spills from the windows, and a flickering neon sign says, "Open," when it can muster the energy, so I assume I'm in the right place. A small bell rings as I open the door, and I'm hit with a musty odor as I make eye contact with the man sitting behind the peeling plywood desk. He's in his mid-50s and sports stubble that looks like it could be used to scrape rust off of equipment in a pinch. His eyes are sunken, grey-brown, judging by the stains on his white t-shirt and flannel jacket, and his vague mushroom scent means he's about 48 hours overdue for his weekly shower. "Jason, right?" he says, unmistakably the man I was speaking to last night. "Take a seat. Someone will be with you in a bit." I resolve to remain calm enough to not get kicked out, take a seat in the fake leather chair that seems specifically designed to make fart noises. I try to strike up a couple of conversations with the man behind the desk, but at no point does he acknowledge me, let alone put down the faded, dog-eared magazine he was reading. I try to get a look at the title, but whatever language it's written in is well beyond my 2 years of barely passing Spanish. As 4 a.m. hits, the man folds his magazine with a lack of urgency that is honed to perfection. He places it carefully into a drawer, locks it, and stands with an article swagger that makes me wonder what the hell he's doing working the graveyard shift. He walks over to a grey door marked "Employees Only" and motions me over. "Right this way," he says, opening the door. "Why did I just wait 2 hours if I'm just going to talk to you?" I say, holding back shock and anger. "Do I tell you how to fix computers? You want an explanation, or you want to speak to the boss?" he says with a shrug. Something in my sleep-addled and righteous-indignation-fueled brain catches this, and my heart skips a beat. How does this guy know what I do for a living? Well, don't get me wrong, there are plenty of ways he could know. But the way he said it, like a threat, makes me wary. We walk down a steep industrial cement staircase. The sparse light comes from bulbs so faded half of them give a deep orange glow. The man is silent. Our oddly muffled footsteps and a distant dripping the only sounds joining us. The staircase ends, leading to a long hallway, lit by a soft blue light. My eyes adjust, and I take in the scene around me. The walkway stretches for about a half-kilometer. The architecture seems blunt, makeshift, like the building was made for one purpose but twisted and hacked into the desired form. On either side of the walkway are long rooms. Fungi of all sizes sprout from every available surface. As I focus, I see the walls are porous. Deep holes ranging from pencil-thin to large enough for a man to walk upright, honeycombing the rough cement. Shock keeps me walking. The man with me chuckles, keeping up a brisk pace. "What is this?" I whisper. "This is where we make the sewer pipes," the man says, letting the simple leading statement hang in the air. "As you can probably guess, we aren't the most modern sanitation department, but what we are is cost-effective. Well, just one toilet man, that's me. You can call me John, and one boss. We're some of the last members of a dying trade, and it's a shame, really." John turns on a flashlight illuminating the tendrils of fungus. He stops at one stalk for a moment. It begins to sway lightly. My heart starts to race as it extends itself, tapping and probing along the wall till it finds a bare rock hole. It spreads at an unimaginable rate, hardening and creating a large tube. I feel my body tense and I look back, judging the distance to the stairwell. As I make the decision to run, I hear a tooth-cracking scraping noise that draws my attention to John. In one hand he holds a small, almost brown apple. In the other, casually, he holds a foot-long hunting knife, rusted to an almost rock-like patina. "Snack," he says, gesturing to me with the knife before cutting a thin slice of apple. The knife leaves brown streaks on the already inedible fruit, but John eats it, never breaking eye contact with me. He tosses the apple a few times, further bruising it, but the knife is kept low, casual, but with the tip noticeably in my direction. He begins to walk again, and without a word I follow him. The grimy dagger he holds is all the instruction I need. We come to a blast door, and John spins the Slime Street handle with little effort. I briefly think of attacking him while he's occupied, but I'm no fighter. I've not been in so much as a shoving match in all my life. John closes the door behind us and leads us down a surprisingly clean hallway with a steel grate floor. "See, Jason, most of the time the system works just fine. Couple reports of sewer gators here and there, or some guy has a meal made of his meat and 2 veg, but that's it. Reasonable sacrifices. Oh, but this new bug, it's got the bus all screwed up. My job is to make sure things get running smoothly again." John says as we reach another blast door. There are 2 sets of thigh-high boots that are made of rubber so thick I'm reminded of tractor tires. John puts his on with a practiced deftness. I fall twice, which, judging by his laughter, is the funniest thing John has ever seen in his life. He puts down his industrial flashlight and picks up a small electric lantern. Gotta keep the lights down. The equipment in here gets a little rowdy when it gets bright, John says, leading us into a massive, pitch-black room. For a moment it remains dark. I can hear noises from far enough away that I get the impression of being in a cave. The feeble lantern sputters a dim 10-foot circle of light, enough to illuminate rough rock floor but nothing else. As we walk, I start to hear shuffling, scrabbling noises, and see familiar rat-like faces quickly dart into the circle of light and then retreat. As I walk, I notice a set of eyes seemingly fixed on me. Deep, reflective purple tracks me as I try to stay within the light. I find myself staring back and noticing it's not 2 eyes but one, narrowed and hateful orb. Looks like he likes you. You 2 know each other? John says with a chuckle. Something tells me he already knows the answer. Want a better look? John says, malice creeping into his tone. I hear a click and the little lantern is suddenly at full blast. I can see 30 feet around me and my heart stops. I'm face to face with the thing that crawled out of my toilet and see dozens of similar creatures writhing and slithering all around it. What I thought was its body was only the head of the thing. Behind the rotted, wrapped corpse-like head was dozens of meters of snake-like muscle tissue, mottled brown and red that reaches far enough into the distance that I can't see where the thing ends. It hisses as it begins to circle around me, bringing its face close to mine. The rat itself splits down the middle, revealing rows upon rows of tiny, pointed teeth. What? Didn't you say that light made them dangerous? I say in a panic as the coils of the thing begin to constrict me. I'm paralyzed with fear as I see its empty, pus-filled eye sockets. Well, for sure, but not for me. I've been working with this equipment for too long. John chuckles as the creature rears back and takes a bite out of my shoulder. The wound isn't deep at all, but it flinches an area of skin about the size of an average notebook. I scream as blood starts to pour down my chest. The thing strikes again, and I move enough that it only takes a nip from my cheek. You see, Jay, buddy, most people in the town get the runaround, give up, and eventually everything's fixed. We come out, clean everything up, and give you a fresh shitter. But you, no, you just couldn't make do for a little while, and let me and the boss do our thing. See, it's a good litmus test to know if someone is a danger to us. If someone's petty enough to go through all this shit just to jump the line, well, chances are they're also the type to blow the whistle on places like ours, John says, venom infusing his tone. I didn't know what I was getting into. I have no intention of messing with you. Please, just let me go, I plead, as the creature begins to really apply pressure. Oh, my ribs creak, and I begin to see black spots. I don't know how much I can trust you, Jay. Let's just continue the tour and see where that takes us. Sound good? John says as the lantern suddenly dims. With a parting strike, the rat beast slinks back into the shadows. Well, the 2-minute walk feels like hours as I try to ignore the pain of a half-dozen bites. The next door we see is surprisingly well kept up. Clean white wood, no rust or mold. John takes us inside and my eyes are immediately assaulted by daylight. I squint as they adjust before taking in the sight before me. The ground is soft and covered with a type of plant that most closely resembles bright yellow grass. The ceiling is high enough to give an illusion of sky, and the room itself could comfortably house a handful of football stadiums. Oh, the juxtaposition is staggering. I'm standing in essentially a massive field. But that wasn't the strangest part. As far as the eye could see, there were rows upon rows of toilets. Pristine white toilets. It takes me a minute to notice that they are in no way just toilets. The closest one is 5 feet from me, and I can feel my jaw drop as I see the massive, soft, almost bovine eye filling the bowl. The top tank rattles slightly as a flat tongue slides out between large, dull teeth. I walk backward but stop as I feel a harsh jab in my back and a small trickle of blood begin to flow from the wound. Oh, don't be a pussy. These guys are harmless. Give him a pet. He says the second part as a threat as opposed to an offer. I walk over carefully, like I'm approaching a bull, controlling my breathing and making soft, nervous small talk. I reach a hand out, ready to pull it back if those brick-like teeth make an appearance. The creature seems rooted to the ground, but could move a few inches in any direction. It happily met my hand as I followed my newest request. It starts to make inquisitive, happy noises as I actually give a shocked smile at John having told the truth. What'd I tell you? Like big porcelain kittens. John finishes his sentence by putting 2 fingers into his mouth and giving a harsh whistle. Slowly, something starts to claw its way out of the ground. A squat, muscular beast that looked like a hybrid of Komodo dragon and bulldog. It shakes off the oddly coloured dirt and looks to John. He whistles 3 discordant notes and the ball of muscle and teeth starts to waddle over to the toilet creature. It leaps onto the bowl, opening its massive flat mouth, tearing through the eyeball with a burst of gore and pain screaming from its porcelain victim. With an ant-like efficiency, it crawls through the creature's body, chunks of internal organs tossed haphazardly around as the creature mews and whimpers till the last seconds. It leaves a blood-streaked but free from matter shell and looks to John for approval. John gives a harsh laugh and claps me on the shoulder, shocking me back to my senses. That's just nature, Jay, or as close as we get to it round here. Now, it's time to meet the boss. The walk to the final door was a blur. Something about getting the brief glimpse of something beautiful. No, that isn't quite the right words. More like something innocent, and having it torn apart hit my brain harder than my missing flesh. I was then taken into a massive chamber, the smell of old water and fresh shit thick in the air. A circular walkway surrounded a creature of such deformity and bulk, I could feel my sense of what was real slip away. Well, garbage truck would be in the neighborhood of the right size of this thing, but for all I know, the thing could be built like an iceberg, most of it being underwater. I saw elements of every horror I'd been subjected to up until this point. Bodies of the rat thing sprang at random from its mountain of brown flesh. Mushrooms sprouted from its folds and crevasses. Slabs of ceramic-like eczema covered it in patchwork plating, and its deformed, almost infant-like head had a mouthful of reptilian fangs jutting out at random angles. It looked like halfway between a slug and a cancerous heart, pulsing and beating as it sent its limbs to and fro. The unnatural epicenter of this place. Oh, beautiful, isn't he? Been my family's job for a couple of centuries to keep him fat and happy. I'm showing you this for a reason, Jay. If you get out of here in one piece, there's going to come a day, maybe in a couple months, maybe in a couple years, you're going to forget what it was really like down here. Maybe you decide to buy a dozen guns and come back. Maybe you decide to spill the beans on YouTube. But I want you to really look at the boss. I want you to realize how beyond your understanding he is, and how easily you'll find yourself inside out and covered in piss long before you get revenge. Don't believe me? John says, flipping his knife around and handing it to me. I take it and give legitimate thought to burying it as deep into him as I can. But his statement is clear. I likely no longer have an arm before the blade even hit home. Smart boy. I think it's about time we get you on your way, though, John says as he begins to walk toward a large rolling door on the other side of the walkway. He presses a button and the door rolls upward, letting early morning light into the cistern. I see the parking lot for the city vehicles, but one I recognize is right in front of the door. My own blown-out hatchback. Oh, before you get going, can I get that knife back? It's been in the family a long time, John says as I offer him the blade. He takes it by the blade and walks beside me to my car. The closer we get, the more I get a sinking feeling. I notice two people in the car. My mind makes the connections in an instant, and I run. I fall to my knees and lean against the driver's side door. I begin to bawl. No rage now, just desperation and regret. I hear John slowly walking up behind me. Well, I'm sure you guessed who's in the car by now, and what state they were in. In case it wasn't clear, my immediate family had been butchered and were staring dead-eyed in the car. CJ, in my experience, the spooky side of life only makes people honor their promises for so long. After a while, folks will do all kinds of mental gymnastics to justify what happened. Now you have a more tangible reason to keep your mouth shut. In an hour or so, the police are going to find this car, this knife, and those bodies. You're going to have to spend the rest of your life on the run. I hope this doesn't leave you much time for stupid ideas, John says, almost sweetly. Just kill me, I choke out between sobs. No, Jay, I like you. You have spunk, hell. You could even make a good toilet man if you were so inclined. I fought to keep you breathing, if not busy, but those grains of sand are falling faster and faster, Jay. Like it or not, in 55 minutes those cops will be on your trail. John finishes by patting me on the shoulder and walking away as I hear the door slowly roll down. Well, it's 2 months later. I've been watching my face on the news every night. Though I'll admit that face looks about 10 years older at this point. But that isn't the change that made me feel the need to spill my guts online before I can't take any more. You see, the wounds that I walked out of that feces-strewn nightmare with, they haven't been healing right. At first I thought infection, obvious consequence of torture in a sewer. But my skin wasn't rotting. It was scabbing over with thick white scales. Well, last night I dug bloody pits into my body in a vain attempt to stop the spread. But as I woke up today, the pits had filled themselves in, stronger, thicker, and more pristine white than before. But those became the least of my concerns as I saw myself shirtless in the hotel mirror. Just under the skin of my stomach I could see smooth, scanning movement. The skin was pale and thin-looking, my belly distended. I stared in shock for a few minutes before I saw the giant eye slowly open. It was in that moment that I realized I wasn't set free. Whoever it was that ran that place had made sure it would always be a part of me. Okay, so you tell me, what on earth was going on there? I can't make head nor tail of it, to be honest with you. But very intriguing and interesting story, to tell you the truth. Well, it's in part a response to something I mentioned on Twitter a week or so ago. The idea of toilet-based deaths and stuff being fertile subject matter for creepypastas, horror stories. And, well, what do you think? Is it? Or is that just disgusting and then at the end just plain weird? I really can't make my mind up, so you're going to have to help me out. Thoughts, feelings, anything else in the comment section below the video. And as ever, I will do my best to join the discussion. Well, I've had some really awful allergies over the last week or so. It's really been affecting my eyes to the point where it's been hard to look at the computer screen. And I get a bit of photophobia, which is extreme sensitivity to the light sometimes, and the allergies have really been ramping that up. So not huge stories, because I've had a bit of trouble reading from the computer screen, but hopefully you haven't noticed too big a difference. Well, normal service will be resumed pretty soon, because things seem to have settled down. Whatever it was that was in the air isn't affecting me too greatly now, so back on schedule soon. Well, my dear friends, that's enough for one night. Not as long as normal, but long enough given the circumstances. Until the next time, very, very sweet dreams, and bye-bye.